हमारा टाइम कुछ और था, अब तो सब कचरा हो गया है. People these days, particularly youngsters, are so strange and weird. These are the kinds of statements one hears oftentimes when talking about or reminiscing about one's school, college days, the good old days, as it were. And we often also find people younger than ourselves inexplicable, odd, etc., etc. And this generational divide, this void, this rift is only natural, but it probably makes a lot of sense to gain some perspective and understanding of a younger generation for various reasons. In a broader sense, it leads to a better overall understanding, but specifically, whether it is to understand one's own children, whether it is to understand a particular generation from the point of view of work or profession or employment, and those realms, it really, really helps to understand their motivations, fears, hopes, aspirations, and quirks, because we can use that information to create a more convivial environment and atmosphere in which to progress as a society. And Gen Z is, I think, in the hotspot nowadays. And to understand Gen Z better, we have the very learned Dr. Vaishnavi Chandran joining us, who will help us gain insights into this specific set of people. And we are calling the session Zoom on Z, Decoding Gen Z. This is Talk Therapy brought to you by Driveway Devi, and I'm Karthik. On behalf of Driveway Devi, I'd like to welcome Dr. Vaishnavi and extend a huge thank you to her for making time to do this.
Thank you so much, Karthik, for a wonderful introduction. I'm excited to talk about Gen Z. People who have been, I have been working for about 10 years now. It's a different experience working with them. And whatever I can share with my experience and with my understanding of how to get them involved in your thoughts and in your vision. I think I would love to share my insights in this talk, and I'm incredibly, grateful to Driveway Devi to identify me as an expert. So yeah, so I'm super excited for this talk.
Thank you so much. And before we get into the meat of the matter, I would love for you, in your own words, to first tell us a little bit about your work professionally.
Okay, so I actually work with an institute called Institute of Venture Building. I work there as a program director. So my experience has always been in edtech and education. So always worked around kids. They're not kids anymore, and they don't like calling themselves as kids. So my role in my company is basically designing experiential learning model. I work with different stakeholders to basically build the gap between what is there in the education system, whether it's school or college, versus what is actually required in the industry. So there is a vast difference, and students or people end up realizing it after they complete their graduation when they are sitting for their interview. So we are kind of a new age institute wherein we are trying to build that gap. We are trying to inculcate the skills which are required. No matter where you work, the soft skills and the technical skills which are required in for the current environment is what I am trying to build.
For those in the know, this is common knowledge that this vast and tragic gap exists, and certainly doesn't require any further testimony, certainly not mine. But being an educator who's interacting constantly with middle, high school kids and college children, I can say that there is, unfortunately, that huge gap, and therefore you are doing absolutely critical work. And I'm so glad that you are, and your organization is. Let's then get into this. I, uh, because I am part of a Jurassic generation myself, I find it very confusing, the nomenclature of all the different generations nowadays. And forgive me, during the course of this conversation, I will ask you some terribly naive and rudimentary questions. But if you will indulge us, first let's begin by you defining in the simplest terms Gen Z. What is the age range, etc.?
So there is no specific definition of Gen Z. However, if you look at the age gap, these are the people who are born between, let's say, 1997 to about 2012.
Mm-hmm.
So they would roughly age between 13 to about 28 years of age as of now, as of 2025. And post Gen Z, there is another term which nowadays people are, or these kids are calling themselves as micro Gen Z. So they don't want to consider themselves as Gen Z or Gen Alpha. So we'll
Uh-huh.
focus more on people who are in the category of 1997 to about 2012. So
So
that will
they're
be
in betweeners.
yeah, so they are roughly 13 to 28. So this is the first generation who has been raised in a technological revolution.
Hmm.
I'm talking about India as such. I am not, I mean, of course,
Sure,
India,
makes sense.
in India, our internet, WhatsApp,
Correct.
everything came in while they were growing up. So this is a generation. I think the concept of going to a library and researching about things is alien to them. So they have been raised in a complete Wi-Fi enabled household, school, wherever they go. So they have access to WhatsApp. They have, I mean, at the age of 10, they will have access to smartphone. At the age of 13, probably they have their Insta account or any sort of, social media account. So this is a very, very different generation, which has been raised in a completely, um, uh, an era which is completely dominated by internet.
Hmm. That's the you paint a very accurate and wonderful picture, and therefore also presumably these are the people who've a lot of them have not, for example, even seen a landline telephone instrument.
Right, right, right.
All right. Now, since you used sort of tech to outline who these people are, and that's most appropriate because it has been the most sort of paradigm shift that or the shift had already sort of happened, and they grew up in that new world. Uh, how and in what are some ways in which this tech environment in which they've grown up shaped them, molded them in terms of their thought process?
Okay, I'll actually start off with talking about the fact that this generation, the parents of Gen Z, this was the time wherein people started moving from joint family to, uh, you know, uh,
Nuclear setups. That's such a
nuclear
crucial
setup.
point.
So, though, I mean, that plays a large role in
Absolutely.
how they perceive relationship. So that's one aspect which is very, very important.
Hmm.
This is the generation wherein, though the parents are obviously academically driven, but have started, giving importance to emotion, expressing themselves. However, it's not as much as how it is now. But
Hmm.
while they were growing up, this was a major, impact wherein, the academics was important and also slightly, they were being exposed to how parents are, being okay with expressing themselves, etc. Having said that, as I mentioned, they've seen social media, they have seen how they get feedback instantly. So that's one of the biggest advantage and disadvantage both. It has its pros and cons as well. So it's very, very important for them to value sort of mental health because they've been exposed to a lot of influencers who have started speaking about mental health, who've started speaking about work-life balance. So this has become kind of a fundamental value to them. So for example, my generation, work-life balance was something we started, like probably about 5, 6 years back, we started, talking about it, started discussing about all of these things. But for the kids, it's very, very, for Gen Z, it's very, very important that they balance their academics, they balance their co-curricular, extracurricular, they balance their work. So these are the kids who have started working. So with the, onset of gig economy, which is basically you're not restricted to a particular company and you don't require a certain education background. So companies are now open to anybody and everybody who has skill set. What they look at is just skill set. So now kids, I mean, I'm working with students who are working with different companies with whatever capacity they can. So they are, financially also trying to be independent. So that's again one thing which I haven't seen in millennials, which is the generation right before Gen Z. So till 1996, 1995 was the millennial aspect. I also
Vaishnavi, can I jump in here because
yes, yes.
I'm moderately intelligent at best, and you've already made several critical points that I have sort of follow up thoughts on. I'm pleasantly surprised that you mention that this work life balance and a general overall balance is a priority item because I mean, like is the case with most things in life, this whole digitization, internet is in fact a double edged sword because what I see as a layperson, but as an educator, is certain very, very worrying collateral damage that the same internet and exposure is causing amongst this very set of people. While you talked about instant feedback, there's also the flip side, which is instant fame. And that becomes an extremely unrealistic aspiration and then leads to frustration, disappointment, etc. And the other point I wanted to share very quickly was that the resources from which they seek validation, even if they've not shifted entirely from, let's say, the parent or the parents, the social media has become a big validator, which of course then comes with its own set of very, very unpleasant circumstances. So I find it so interesting and nuanced and complex that while on the one hand, they are, clearly woke, for lack of better term, and they understand this balance that's very important in life. They are also drawing, perhaps inadvertently, quite a few unsavory facets from this world as well.
True, true. I would, the entire thing which you just mentioned, it's about the fact that Gen Z is hyper connected as if you talk about Instagram as such. However, they are lonely. So they are connected virtually. So they have been raised in an environment wherein whatever they do in life, they have to put it across. They have to seek validation. However, when it comes down to, the actual physical meeting, or the fact that how they develop relationship, that has taken a toll in the entire generation. So I would say they are hyper connected, but they are lonely.
Absolutely. In fact, I would go so far as to say that there are so many symptoms of this kind of ethos. A lot of them seem to prefer regular communication also through texting rather than just picking up the phone and dialing a call.
Yes, yes. So everything is about DM. So
Mm.
whatever I need, I would want them to, drop a message. I will, respond to that message when, as and when. So the problem is this entire industry, which is social media industry or WhatsApp or, this entire social media, there is no regulatory authority. So there is no right or wrong, do's or don'ts. Everybody is experimenting right now. So right from how, I mean, I just want to give an example how the blue whale challenge, I think if you
Mm-hmm.
are aware about it. So the entire thing was all about seeking validation. Um, and this generation has been raised in a time wherein there was TikTok, which was famous, Instagram, Blue Whale, and all of those things. And people consider themselves as cool if they have a larger
Sure.
followers.
Yeah.
Right. And they assume that the followers is equal to the relationships they have. So they
Mm-hmm.
have been raised in an environment. For example, when I was growing up, we didn't have TV. I mean, also coming from a lower middle class family, I didn't have TV in my house. And the only entertainment which we had was going out and playing with our friends in the evening. And no matter what, whether I have exam, whatever the weather is, or whatever is the situation, I know that at 6 o'clock I will go out and I will play with my friends, literally either play or just hang around and gossip with them. But the students or the kids right these days, especially the Gen Z, while they were growing up, instead of actually playing on ground, they were using mobile phone to play games, whether it's something to do with blue whale challenge or
Sure.
something
I
to
mean,
do,
I mean, they're all on Minecraft and they're playing with people from across the world, etc.
yeah, the PUBG and all
Yeah,
of,
PUBG.
they are able to connect with people globally.
Hmm.
They are able to sort of make friends. That's what they want. They assume that making friendship is through playing all of these games and being connected socially.
Hmm.
But I think they have found their comfort zone in being behind the scene, being inside the house, and just living a life which is the ideal life which people assume.
In fact, let me quickly mention for the benefit primarily of our viewers, and I'm sorry I don't remember the name, but I will drop it in the link in the description later. I quite by chance watched this beautiful YouTube short film just a couple of days back. Of course, that was around the central character who was an elderly gentleman, but the phenomenon it talked about and addressed is relevant. This gentleman visits a lady's house in the night. It's really, really raining outside. It's in Bombay and it's this torrential downpour. And that lady is not at home. Her flatmate, who's another younger girl, is at home. And she's obviously, suspicious and a touch uncomfortable to let him in and things like that. But seeing that he's an elderly person and seems well educated, etc., she does. And by the end of the film, I don't want to get into the details, this girl is finally able to connect on the phone with that friend whom they're still waiting on, and says, "So and so is here to see you, your friend so and so." And she says, "Who the hell is this?" And I've never heard of it. And she, of course, freaks out and puts the phone down and gets him out on some pretext. So it's not one of those issues. She's not hacked to death or anything. But he says, "पर वो मुझे जानती है, हम friends हैं Facebook पे." And so it's all about this fallacy that is
Yeah.
created in the virtual realm.
Actually, I mean, a lot of actors also come up and, file complaints against the stalkers who come and, talk about the fact that, how they are related or they were married and all of those aspects. So that's an extreme, obviously, form of some sort of mental stress, if I may say. And again, I think I'll not talk about mental
Yeah, yeah.
distress.
I mean, that is, of course, that can
But
go
I
to,
completely, I
loneliness
actually
and all kinds of other things.
recently also saw one documentary called Bad Influence. I think it was on Netflix, which talks about the fact that how parents are using their kids to make money on social media. So they are exposing kids, their own children, their own family to social media, wherein, I mean, whatever they're doing every day without the consent of obviously the kids. Uh, they are basically, and this is impacting the kids a lot. And
Hmm.
that actually show talks about the mental health of the girl who has been pushed towards a influencer life. I think the tender age of 5 or 6, and
Oh, gosh.
and now I think she's about 21, 22. People have filed case against the parent.
Parents.
However, I mean, even if this girl is not against parents or her mother, it's still, you can see as a viewer that she is not okay
Absolutely.
and
The
she needs
damage
help.
is done.
So it has really, really bad negative effect also. And of course, I don't want to just talk about the negative aspect of social media and how it's impacting Gen Z. Of course, it is helping us connect with so many people. For example, right now, we both are in different cities. Technology and, social media is helping people connect as well. So it's
Well,
just
I mean,
about
the
how,
benefits are undeniable,
yeah. I
from
think
it
all of
being
us
a
are just
level
learning.
playing field to showcase talent to all kinds of things.
Right. I think we all are just learning how to deal with, as we are learning to, deal with Gen Z, we're also learning the pros and cons of social media as such.
You very correctly said that, let's not only focus on the negatives, and we consciously don't do that in our interactions at Driveway Devi. Let's then move a little bit towards a more practical aspect where we I would love for you to contextualize some of these qualities, traits, personality types of Gen Z by relating it to certain, real world scenarios, and what we can be aware of that would help us to, I don't want to say something as disparaging as deal with them, but work, combine better together.
Okay, so I'll start off as you asked about the real life scenario. So I want to bring in one example. So while I was growing up, there were certain superstitious belief which my grandparents or my parents were following, and it didn't make sense, to be
Yeah.
honest. However, I never questioned them. I never
Right.
asked them, why are you doing this? If this is making you happy, or if this is, helping you sleep at night, I
Hmm.
might as well do it
Hmm.
till the time I am, under your shelter.
Correct.
However, now if you see with Gen Z, this doesn't work.
Hmm.
For everything, they want to know why.
Hmm. Hmm.
If you're asking me to do something, I want to know why. I want to know that I want transparency in whatever we are doing around. So they will not blindly follow authority. They will not, respect you because you are older than them, or you are more,
Or you have a
experienced.
certain position. I mean, I think
Yeah,
teaching would be a great example, because
correct.
typically speaking, you've had career teachers who've taught generation after generation.
Right, right, right. So they don't just blindly, obey what you're asking them to do. It's not that they are very rude, or they will not, they will snap back or they will answer back. The only thing they expect out of us is why you're
Hmm.
asking us to do
Hmm.
something. So as I mentioned, when we talk about work, for us, for me at least, work, I used to consider work as a ladder wherein I have to, from one step to the other, I have to grow and, move up the ladder. However, the difference I've seen in Gen Z is they see work as a platform. They don't see it as ladder. They see it as a platform to, express themselves, show their creativity, bring in their fresh ideas. So that's again one difference I have seen when they,
But that's a
when
very big difference,
that's true.
philosophically, ideologically.
Right, right, right. As I mentioned, so they are very, very woke about inclusivity, about diversity, about mental health. A lot of them obviously do it just to be cool. However, I have seen that bottom line, at least they know the definition, they know what is right, what is wrong at in the workplace, how much inclusivity or diversity is important, how much they teach us how much taking a mental health break is important.
Hmm.
So that's one difference I have seen, specifically at work.
Hmm.
And uh, I think, yeah, that's all. That's and also I feel that they're very, very hypersensitive. So a rude email, I mean, if my boss sends me a rude email, I would probably obviously feel bad. However, I will be able to break it down and understand that this is not personal, this is more work oriented. But what I have seen with Gen Z is, because they have grown up with instant likes, instant feedback, uh, for them it's very, very important that you give them the feedback in a very, very sugar coated way. So they don't, expect you to have a blunt conversation. It should be more around, like your feedback has to be a story. So as to what exactly happened, what went wrong, how they could, deal with it, how they can, benefit out of it and all of those. So it's a story which has to be built. So unlike the older days where feedback was just given outright in front of everybody or in a meeting or something, but now we have to be more, we have to be,
So if I'm understanding you correctly, Vaishnavi, and please correct me if I'm wrong, what is expected, and I completely corroborate that, and I'll share an example, is that two things are consciously or unconsciously sought by this set of people. One is a certain intellectual explanation, and one is the fact that you need to be, or you'd be wise to come across as clearly empathetic.
That's true. So they don't want us to treat them as kids or somebody who is not aware or who does not know what they are doing. So they want us to treat them as equals and not as kids.
Hmm.
So
And
that is an
I think
expectation they
an
have.
element of that also is that essentially what all of this does is that it tells them, or it communicates to them, that they are seen to be of value.
True.
My
So
own
yeah,
brother-in-law was recently let go from his company in Delhi. Now, while he had an intellectual understanding of that decision because the company itself was going under or being sold out or something, and therefore had no qualms, the fact that neither HR or his bosses, who were very fond of him, um, offered any kind of uh, explanation or even an expression of their dismay at having to do this, and that
right, right.
really upset him.
And they go into the spiral of, am I not good enough? So that spiral comes in because they've not heard from actual people about their strengths. So whatever they have seen is just in terms of likes and
Hmm.
shares and all of those aspects. So they're not exposed to a lot of feedback from people. And I mean, I'll not blame parents. Of course, the parents are also working hard towards, giving the kind of education to their kids, but parents are also not, available a lot of times. And obviously, as I mentioned, they are now, either growing up by themselves or they are probably in creche or something. So that kind of, human touch is missing. Having said that, it's not that we should, I mean, I'm not in no way promoting the fact that we should, go back and evolve back to how we were 40 years back, 30 years back. We just have to learn to, live and, move forward as world is growing.
Hmm.
Keep the connection, human connection. I feel that is very, very important. No matter what you do in life, I think having that human connection, that physical, so pick up a call or, go and meet friends is very, very important.
Absolutely. And I think what you've just explained so beautifully is further perpetuated by what you yourself had shared earlier, which is the fact that from the very get go, their immediate private milieus also, in a lot of cases, include only the parents, and parents who are ostensibly anyway busy and barely physically present, as
Right.
opposed to that large joint family and aunts and this and grandparents and blah blah blah.
Correct, correct. Yes, yes.
Wonderful. So try, although this is my duty, but I'm just not. I don't have the capacity. So please try and sum up for us couple of chief traits, and uh, arising from them, what might be certain management techniques, particularly when it comes to the workspace vis-a-vis Gen Z.
Hmm. Okay, I want to, because we've spoken so much about the fact that, Gen Zs are this, Gen Zs are that. I want to first iterate the fact that they are not difficult, they are
Hmm.
just different.
Of course.
Um, so let's start with understanding the strength areas of the generation altogether. So yeah, as I mentioned multiple times, they are emotionally intelligent, and that is needed in today's day and age. They are tech savvy. Again, is very, very important because everything is
Right.
moving towards AI
Yep.
and tech.
Mm-hmm.
They are not afraid to ask why. They are not afraid to challenge the status quo. If they find something unethical, they are not afraid to question it out loud. They learn fast. They adapt faster. So as and when technology is coming, they are very, very quick in adapting to all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
They bring in fresh perspective to our everyday work, and that's basically reimagining the entire future of work.
Right.
So I believe what we can do to basically
Harness.
work with them is, um, every time you are expecting something out of them, just be as transparent as possible.
Mm.
Tell them why you want something. So, for example, um, a, 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 a challenge which I face every day with my students is the fact that I ask them to come be punctual, and that's something they are not. I mean, they will come whenever they want to come. Uh, I am still struggling, not that I am completely, I have made them, but I try and make them understand the importance of punctuality as such, not only specific to coming to class on time, but generally in life, how much punctuality is important. And when they step out to work, and then giving them example of, if you have, blocked a time for somebody and imagine they don't show up, how frustrating that would be. So making them understand and treating them as equal and not somebody who knows lesser than you or who does not have enough experience as you. So the minute you show authority to them is when they turn off, and then no matter what you do, they will not listen to you. So
Yep.
authority is something which I really avoid as much as possible. While giving them feedback, I think if you are very, very clear with respect to what you expect out of them, be very precise, and close the loop in the sense that while you're giving them feedback, they also deserve to be appreciated for things they are doing. So instead of just picking on things which are not working as per your expectation, I think, as I mentioned, maybe forming a story of the entire agenda of the entire meeting, um starting off with what worked, then what didn't work, not specifically targeting or pointing it out that because of you this does not work, taking collective action or responsibility of what is not happening. So such kind of, I think, communication with them will help them a lot, and asking them for the solution to the problems you are facing with them has helped. So I have had conversations with people on things which I find very, very difficult to deal with, and understanding from their angle as to, what all can be done has helped me a lot, and has,
Mm.
helped me in coming up with solutions to work with them. So yeah, these are the few things that I feel. One thing which I would want to tell people who really are working with Gen Z is to read this book called The Anxious Generation. I think it's by Jonathan Haidt. And I keep going back to that book a lot of times to understand, how things are changing and how we can make them understand us. If
Mm.
not
Mm.
listen, I don't want to, use the word they should listen to us, but they should
Sure.
understand where we are coming
Mm.
from.
Mm.
And same goes. I mean, we
Mm.
should understand their, perspective. So yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that while there may be, in a lot of cases, a sincere desire to understand, but there is still a knowledge gap, which is precisely where you've come in and you've enumerated such important points, which will be invaluable in a slew of situations, like I'd said at the beginning, for parents, for employers, for teachers, in all sectors. So, very, very critical points, and so insightful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was an excellent interaction. I must also compliment you on your backdrop. It's so beautiful. You have
Thank
the two things that literally breathe life into any space: greenery and books. Uh,
Right, right.
and I also suddenly realized, I wonder if it was unconscious. It's Monday and we're both in blue.
I am noticing now.
Wonderful. I'm so happy that you do the work you do. I've learned a lot. I'm certainly going to apply some of it in my interactions, and I hope that people who listen benefit and use it in theirs as well. Thank you very much, Vaishnavi. Take care. All the very best.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much. All the very best.